I'm not ashamed.
Why didn't Pilate release Jesus? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Luke on Walking Through the Bible.
Honors of his word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to Luke 23. We're going to be reading from verses 13 to 25. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Luke 23, beginning at verse 13. Then Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, said to them, "You have brought this man to me as one who misleads the people. And indeed, having examined him in your presence, I have found no fault in this man concerning those things of which you accuse him. No, neither did Herod, for I sent you back to him, and indeed nothing deserving of death has been done by him. I will therefore chastise him and release him, for it was necessary for him to release one to them at the feast." And they all cried out at once, saying, "Away with this man, and release to us Barabbas, who had been thrown into prison for a certain rebellion made in the city, and for murder." Pilate, therefore, wishing to release Jesus, again called out to them. But they shouted, saying, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Then he said to them the third time, "Why? What evil has he done? I have found no reason for death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go." But they were insistent, demanding with loud voices that he be crucified. And the voices of these men and of the chief priests prevailed. So Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they requested. And he released to them the one they requested, who for rebellion and murder had been thrown into prison. But he delivered Jesus to their will. By now, Jesus had probably been awake for about a day. He was certainly tired and was dreading what was about to happen. He had been arrested, beaten, tried and convicted before the Jews. He had been tried and found innocent by Pilate once, who then sent him to Herod, once Pilate found out that Jesus was a Galilean. Before Herod, he once again was questioned and mocked again because he would not answer. Now he was standing before Pilate a second time. By this time, Pilate was probably annoyed. He knew that Jesus was innocent, and yet he had to deal with this problem anyway. Pilate called the chief priests, rulers, and people together and basically accused them of mischief. He told them that they brought Jesus to him saying that he misleads the people, yet when I examine him before you, I find no fault in him. What fault could Pilate possibly find? For not only were the charges false, but the fact remains that Jesus was sinless. He didn't ever commit sin, so he never committed anything that was worthy of death. That we remember this point is key if we're to understand God's wondrous plan of salvation through Christ. We as sinners deserved punishment. Jesus, as a sinless man, deserved life. However, Jesus bore our sins on the cross, shed his blood, and died for our sins so that we could receive God's grace through faith in him and live. Pilate's solution to the whole matter was to chastise Jesus and release him. What this meant was that Pilate would probably tell Jesus to stop whatever he was doing that was making the chief priests angry and go back to his normal life. This solution by Pilate did not sit well with the Jews, for they said that instead of Jesus being released, they wanted Barabbas, a man convicted of rebellion and murder, released to them. Now Luke just introduces Barabbas without telling us that Pilate had given them a choice as to who would be released. The Gospel of Matthew gives us this conversation in Matthew 27, and so it is quite possible that Theophilus, Luke's original audience, would have known this fact already, so Luke omitted it. Now for Pilate, releasing a rebellious murderer wouldn't be good politics, for it might actually lead to more problems down the road, so he again entreated the people that he release Jesus. The crowd again cried, saying that they wanted Jesus crucified. Think about that for a moment. How much hate these people had for Jesus, that they would rather see a murderer released, a man who could murder them in the future, than have Jesus released. Pilate a third time wanted to know why he ought to have Jesus crucified, for Jesus had done nothing worthy of death. The crowd, though, was insistent. It wanted Jesus crucified. So, seeing as how he could not prevail, Pilate finally gave in and sentenced Jesus to death by crucifixion. In doing this, Pilate was a coward. He was the governor. He had the power. He could have told his guards to arrest anybody who dared start a riot because of Jesus being released. Yet he didn't. He gave in to the will of the people and sentenced Jesus to death and released Barabbas. In reality, though, this is why I believe God raised Pilate up. A stronger governor might not have caved to the wishes of the mob, but salvation demanded that Jesus would die, so God raised up a coward who would be unwilling to stand up to the mob. We see God doing this at other points in history too. It's not that God makes people do what he wants, it's that God knows people better than we know ourselves, because he is the creator. He can therefore use different people to accomplish his will. Pilate had the free will to release Jesus. However, because of Pilate's character, he used his free will to sentence Jesus to death. We'll continue this story, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Luke chapter 23, verses 26 to 33, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.